precincts, all within the central business district. Opened recently, Emporium Melbourne is a sprawling delight filled with boutique chain stores and designer fashion. You'll also find department stores H&M, David Jones, Myer and Zara, all in the same area. In fact, there are more than 1,000 retailers within 2 city blocks. You can hop on, hop off the bus at all stops shown on your brochure. If there is any information you can't find on your brochure, please ask one of our friendly staff. On this tour, we'll not only be pointing out sites as we and how it came to be, and interesting facts about Australia and our culture. We ask that you remain seated while the bus is in motion and ensure you collect all valuables when hopping off. Melbourne is a city of constant discovery where fashion, food, sport and entertainment, shopping, heritage, the arts and good living all come together to create a... As we cross the bridge ahead, look to your left to see the parklands of Bivarong Mar stretching out into the distance. The name translates into River of Mists, and we can't think of a more apt description for this beautiful riverside park. This area is the traditional land of the Kilda Nations, an alliance of 5 traditional Aboriginal groups, each with a distinct language and heritage, who lived sustainably on the land where Melbourne and its surrounds now sit. To celebrate the land's heritage, the park plays a large role in the festive life of our city, with many large events and community festivals held on the many rolling hills. If you have time, grab some lunch or just a coffee and settle in under an elm tree to soak in the atmosphere. To your left, you can see Melbourne's famous floral clock. Part of the Queen Victoria Gardens, the clock was a gift from a group of Swiss watchmakers and requires 7,000 flowers for each design, which is changed twice annually. The clock is synchronised to a sister clock at the Melbourne Town Hall, with both chiming in unison. We're approaching Melbourne's famous Royal Botanic Gardens. Known far and wide as one of the world's best, they're home to over 10,000 species of flora and feature a number of specialist displays and educational programs. No matter the season, you'll find the gardens filled with people taking long strolls on the rolling lawns or enjoying the tranquility of one of the many pleasant lakes. There are also many examples of special flora to observe, like the Australian Forest Walk, featuring plants from all over our country, and the amazing collection of succulent plants of Guilfoyle's volcano, where you can also get a fantastic view of the city. But more than a collection of flora and other curiosities, during the warmer months, the gardens also play a large role in a number of unique events that take advantage of the wonderful environment, like regular Shakespeare in the Park performances or the very popular Moonlight Cinema. So hop off at our next stop and take a walk. There are more than just botanical wonders to enjoy. At the next stop, you'll find our Shrine of Remembrance, a memorial to soldiers who served Australia in all wars and peacekeeping operations around the world. It's also a reminder that peace is a state of existence we must work hard to achieve and never take for granted. Each year on Remembrance Day, at exactly 11 a.m. on the 11th of November, a ray of sunlight beams through an aperture in the roof of the Shrine's central sanctuary and strikes the stone of remembrance, illuminating the word love in the phrase, "Greater love hath no man." Throughout the year, you'll find regular exhibitions on military history or facets of Australian involvement in global peace efforts, as well as regular talks from returned soldiers, military historians, journalists, photographers, and ensure you collect your belongings before you hop off, and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on again later. There were many names considered for our city when Melbourne was merely a collection of tents and boats moored on the river. being an unofficial settlement, founded after farmers from Tasmania across Bass Strait to the south decided to settle in without letting anyone know, the government found the burgeoning new town quite unexpected. But official approval was swiftly given, and the town became Australia's newest European settlement. But what to call it? A number of interim names were used before being bestowed with the official title of Melbourne, named after the then British Prime Minister William Lamb, 2nd Viscount Melbourne. There was Bearport, derived from the Australian Indigenous word Berrin or Biberung. Batmania, after the first settler to the area, John Batman. There's also Bearbrass, again taken from the Indigenous tongue. Our favourite though is the wonderful big Mayam Mayam, which apparently translates as plenty of white bread. Straight ahead of us is Melbourne Grammar School. Founded in 1858, the school is one of the first to be opened in our city and is almost as old as Melbourne itself. Education has always been a big part of our culture. Class education became a priority for many. As business boomed, so too did the amount of families travelling from England, moving to Australia to seek a better life. It's these early Australians and their many kith and kin who built the city you see before you. Notable alumni of this school include former state premiers, various judges, a number of Australian Prime Ministers, and, most importantly, many AFL players.
Cost a fortune to go there.
It's in Kilda Road. It's one of the main connecting roads between the city and the many areas to the south. Many international corporations, foreign embassies and businesses have headquarters along here. Buildings which the area has changed since those days, and Melbourne is now safer than ever. The area we're now passing through is South Melbourne. It's one of the first official suburbs of our city and contains a landscape rich in heritage and cultural attractions. But around the time of European settlement, it was barely more than swamplands. One piece of ground did stand out above the surrounding area, which became known as Emerald Hill. A tent city slowly grew up around the area, known as Canvas Town, and the area began to thrive. With steady development, the suburb is now an integral part of our city, providing a large array of retail therapy options, as well as restaurants, bars and entertainment. South Melbourne is also the home of William John Wills of Burke and Wills fame, one of the leaders of the ill-fated expedition to cross Australia, from Melbourne to the Gulf of Carpentaria. You've likely noticed the metal tracks running down the centre of many Melbourne streets. These tracks form Look to your right. That renovated motel building we're now passing is a TV star. Featured on the Australian reality TV series The Block, the empty shell of the building was given to contestants to renovate in a competition that spanned many intense months of their lives. We love our reality TV here in Australia. If you get the chance, make sure you take a selfie with our famous The Block building.
That one that was not last year, the year before.
On your left, you can see the famous Water Rat Hotel, built in the late 19th century of names in its time. Originally known as the Freemasons Hotel, then Druids Hotel, and the Splash Club, followed by the Exeter. While the names have changed, the hotel is a constant reminder of the area. Melbourne is well known for its bustling fresh produce markets, a fact we're not shy about. You'll find one of the best right here at the South Melbourne Market. Starting life in 1867, after local residents petitioned the government to open a market, it now serves the wider area with all the fresh fruit and vegetables, meats and assorted goods it can handle. There are also cooking classes, cafes and restaurants, and a large array of clothing stores. Open every Wednesday, Friday and all weekend, don't forget to try out our famous South Melbourne Market dim sims. They are world famous, don't miss out. We love our classic architecture here in Melbourne. It's evident on any street and in many homes across the city. Here's a great example right now. Look to your right and you'll see the South Melbourne Town Hall. Built in 1880, it's considered one of the greatest examples of Second Empire style architecture in Australia. Pay particular attention to the decorative roof and iron cresting. Isn't she magnificent? It's the secondary home of the local government, providing a large range of services and resources to the local community. It's also home to the Australian National Academy of Music, a classical music training facility on par with the world's best. Many alumni have gone on to impressive careers, with the likes of the burn with your belongings and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on again later. Can you name a famous Australian band or musician? We can. In fact, we can name many. Australian musicians have long been regarded as some of the most diverse and unique acts in the world. There's the domineering rock of AC/DC, the radio-friendly pop rock of In case you haven't noticed, sports are a big part of Australian culture. There's nothing we love doing more on a weekend than kicking a football around or having a hit of tennis. Add some cricket, basketball, netball, skateboarding, surfing or running and you get the idea. We love it all. Part of our national sporting identity is the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre. Comprising several swimming pools and diving facilities, plus a multi-purpose hall, MSAC, as it's affectionately known, is a world-class water sports facility. Opened in 1997, the centre cost around $65 million to construct. By world standards, that's actually a pretty cheap deal for a facility such as this. While the centre is home to, we hope you brought your bathers or swimming trunks. Palm trees you can see dotted along the roadside or along the waterfront here are actually coconut palms. Just the sight of them conjures a feeling of being beachside as the breeze rustles their fronds and relaxes the nerves. They're quite common in this area of Melbourne. However, there's actually a lot of debate about whether the palms are native to Australia or were brought here by early settlers. They are identical to those found in island countries further north or to the east and west, and would have been easy to transport on long ship voyages. But there are also early reports of sailing ships spotting the trees dotted along our shores, long before Europeans ever landed. Regardless of the truth of the matter, they promote a calming atmosphere found in many of our bayside suburbs. An inner city landmark and source of enjoyment for many Melbournians, welcome to Albert Park Lake. It's one of the largest lakes found in the city area, covering more than 560 acres, with the lake itself covering roughly a quarter of this space. What began life as a wetlands is now the heart and soul of the area south of Melbourne. After the Yarra River Delta was moved closer to the city, The large lagoon left behind would eventually become Albert Park Lake. This grassy wetland area now serves as the home for nearly 200 species of birds, as well as possums, water rats, bats, and the occasional fox. The lake itself is a hive of activity, with a large variety of fish and amphibians, and making their home in and around the water. This is also where the annual Formula One Australian Grand Prix race is held. For one weekend each year, Albert Park thrills to the roar of Formula One engines as one of the richest races in the world is played out. The crowds cheer, the champagne flows, and a few heads are a little sore the following day. With walking, cycling and running tracks, plus a variety of sporting facilities and expensive green lawns and playing fields, it really is a gem in the crown of our city. If talk of the Formula One Grand Prix got you excited, you might want to listen up. Melbourne has a long history with motor racing, which is unsurprisingly something we're proud of. The Australian Grand Prix was first held in 1928 and was known as the 100 Miles Road Race. Staged on Phillip Island, approximately 140 kilometres south of here, the racetrack was filled with early model cars, most hand-cranked, but still the pinnacle of technology. The race was won by a man named Arthur Waite, who drove an Austin 7, also known as a baby Austin. We're sure that if Arthur were alive today, he would consider the technology available in automotive racing to be nothing short of space age. Since that fateful day, the Formula One Australian Grand Prix may have changed homes a few times, but would eventually find its way back to its birthplace. These days, the event attracts over 300,000 people, a third of those attending the final race day to cheer on their favourite driver and inhale the distinctive aroma of Formula One fuel. It's as continued connection exhibited by the descendants of this ancient culture. It is estimated that for more than 40,000 years, Kulti people lived, hunted, gathered and cultivated the bushlands and large wetlands of this area. Today, Aboriginal culture is continuously expressed through food, art, dance and song, as well as gatherings and festivals. For the Aboriginal people, part of the celebration of the Dreamtime stories is the corroboree. Used to describe various Indigenous Australian theatrical performances, corroboree is actually a word introduced by European settlers, based on the Aboriginal word Kavaberi. Involving dance and music, members will paint agencies. This is actually what some consider the most important part of this area, for it surrounds a giant red gum tree, known as the Nagi tree. Many ceremonies and corroborees were believed held here before European settlement, with gatherings still occurring to this day. This site is still considered sacred ground by many Aboriginal elders, and should be treated with the respect it deserves. To St Kilda, a place where celebrity chefs rub shoulders with backpackers, cafes and bars outnumber people, and the sun paints a magnificent portrait each night as it sets over the sea. It all sounds a little romantic, but that's because it's such a charming part of Melbourne. In the early days of its history, St Kilda was favoured by Melbourne's elite. Large palatial mansions were sparsely dotted among the many parklands, with the seaside providing an amazing backdrop for those fortunate enough to live a wealthy lifestyle. But the area fell into decline during the Depression of the 1890s. With the introduction of low-rent housing in the first half of the 20th century, a new class of citizen was attracted to the suburb. It became Melbourne's unofficial red light district. The suburb stop, St Kilda's famous the Esplanade, to experience everything this seaside village suburb has to offer. Take a stroll along the St Kilda Pier and fight with the seagulls while you grab some fish and chips at the Pavilion Cafe at the end. The structure is over 110 years old and has even survived an arson attack. Next to the pier, you'll find the historic St Kilda C Bar, which has provided the area with wellbeing and bathing services since the middle of the 19th century. The building now houses many cafes and restaurants, as well as its namesake. For the foodies among you, St Kilda is your new home away from home. Here, you'll find a number of Melbourne's top-voted restaurants, sitting alongside humble fish and chip shops or gourmet hamburger bars. It's an eclectic mix of tastes that we love. Regardless of the number of stars a restaurant may have earned, the atmosphere is always relaxed and casual. You won't need to don a suit or cocktail dress to enjoy fine dining here. Look to your left to see an iconic piece of modern St Kilda, the Prince of Wales Hotel. Constructed in 1940, it's a great example of modern design and was built on the site of the former hotel of the same name. It's We've now arrived at the St Kilda Esplanade stop. Please ensure you collect your belongings before hopping off and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on again later. Have fun! Coming up on your left is the world famous live music venue, the Esplanade Hotel. Known as the Espy to locals, it was built in 1878 and served as a prominent resort-style hotel for the wealthy. With the addition of live performance rooms in the 1920s, the hotel took on a whole new life, becoming a jazz venue of quite some fame. Along come the 70s, and even the Espy didn't escape the fever of disco music. A flashing dance floor was installed, and flared pants were mandatory. Since those heady days, the venue may have presented many of the world's top music acts, but it's the Australian acts we feel most fondly for. So, catch a local band if you've got the time. You won't regret it. To your right, the St Kilda Esplanade is the perfect place to take in the gorgeous beach to one side and the historic buildings to the other. It's one of the oldest features of the area and intersects further along with Aquatic Street, the heart of St Kilda's Bohemian district. Aquatic Street is always a hive of activity. While there are dozens of great restaurants and cafes to stop into, many come purely for the delectable cakes. The area developed a large European community around the 1930s, and many cake shops and bakeries sprang up almost overnight. We hope you brought your sweet tooth. There's also a local craft market every Sunday, which runs the length of the Esplanade. Rain, hail or shine, you'll find a plethora of local artisans diligently peddling their wares. It's a great place to pick up some local art or maybe some homemade chocolate fudge. Either way, you'll be pleased as punch. As we pass around the loop here, follow the tram tracks up the road and see the hustle and bustle of the many cake shops, gelati bars, restaurants, bars and pubs that line St Kilda's famous Aquatic Street. You can see St Kilda's Majestic Palais Theatre. Isn't it beautiful? Considered a perfect example of Art Deco architecture, the theatre was designed as a dual-purpose live entertainment and cinema venue. And boy, has it seen some amazing live acts over the years. Many well-known identities have caressed the theatre's walls with their beautiful music and voices. Not to mention, many of the world's premier ballet companies have also danced upon the stage. To this day, you can still catch amazing live music. Gaze over to your right and you'll see Melbourne's famous St Kilda Beach. You'll find many people here taking in the grand views of the city as they dig their toes into the sand and relax to the sounds of the seas lapping at the shore. If you get the chance to do it yourself, we highly recommend it. For those nautical fans among you, 20 minutes further south is a piece of Australia's maritime history, the HMV Cerberus. Completed in 1870, the Cerberus had an interesting history. Within a few decades of construction, her guns and boilers became in the 1990s. Divers could swim in the area surrounding the Cerberus, as well as move about inside the ship. Some brave folk would even picnic on her decks. But after the structure became too unsettled, it was decided that this allows scuba diving in the ship, and shift focus to preserving what remained of the wreck. The Cerberus now rests in peace as a heritage-listed ship. Many people will tell you a beach isn't really a beach unless it has bathing boxes. Naturally, we have that covered. With the boom of wealth following the gold rush, many Melburnians now have the opportunity to enjoy the finer things in life. With the growing popularity of St Kilda Beach and the more affluent Brighton Beach just down the road, it was only a matter of time before a number of bathing boxes started to appear along the beach. These multicoloured wooden shacks would spring to life when the weather was fine, with families and couples of all ages utilising the privacy to change in and out of their bathing suits. People at the time weren't fond of arriving at the beach in their togs, so these boxes allowed them to retain a high level of moral deportment. Today, there are 82 boxes remaining, while folks live local cuisine with stunning views of the bay. One of the first in Melbourne, the marina offers berths and boating services for those with the pennies to sail the seven seas. But if you're just visiting for the day, you could opt for a quick coffee as you wait for a fellow travelling to parachute onto the beach. Wait, what? You could opt for a quick coffee as you wait for a fellow travelling to parachute onto the beach. That's right, a local company offers parachuting onto St Kilda Beach. That's one Melbourne experience you won't soon forget. But if you've always wanted to get married to the sea, you can apply for a job scrubbing decks and repairing hulls with a local boat building. Good luck! We've now arrived at the St Kilda Marina. Please be sure to collect your belongings before you hop off and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on again later. Enjoy!
Yeah, this is St Kilda Marina.
Wow, that's perfect. And Alma didn't even go with us, so she's lost. No, she's downstairs.
You may have noticed the roads around us are populated with cyclists. The road we're on now, Beaconsfield Parade, provides many cyclists with the opportunity to take in an amazing view of the see a tall smokestack. This belongs to the Newport Power Station. This is a gas turbine which supplements the electrical power to the western suburbs. To the left of this along the peninsula is Williamstown, a historical area on the bay. To the right of the smokestack you can see a bridge. This is the Westgate Bridge. This structure spans some 2.5 kilometres across the Yarra River and docklands below. It's a vital link between the inner city and the western suburbs and beyond, but it came with a heavy toll. On the 15th of October 1970, a section of the bridge, some 2,000 tonnes of concrete and steel, began to groan and buckle. Workers on top of the bridge felt the structure shifting beneath their feet, and then the span gave way, falling 50 metres onto workers' huts below and killing those inside. The collapse created an explosion that could be heard up to 20 kilometres away. An inquest deemed the accident both a design and construction fault. A memorial to the victims of the disaster now stands under the bridge, a reminder of the day that 35 people lost their lives. Kilda C Bars. These historical baths were opened in the 1860s. Although the baths no longer have enclosures extending into the bay to protect people from predatory marine life, these baths still serve an historical role to the community. Next to the sea baths is the St Kilda Pier. Can you see Kirby's kiosk at the very end? After surviving an arson attack, the kiosk was rebuilt and put on the Victorian Heritage Register. The breakwater you can see extending to the right from the pier was constructed for the 1956 Olympic Games. As we travel along the seaside, it's easy to forget that Melbourne actually resides not on the ocean front, but on a large bay. Port Phillip Bay covers roughly 1,930 square kilometres of this area and serves as one of the country's main shipping ports. In settlement days, it was essential for bringing cargo and new settlers into Melbourne. It wasn't until 1883 that a rail link joined Melbourne with Australia's first city, Sydney, so the port was really the lifeblood of the fledgling city. Like many cities positioned close to the sea, we enjoy an abundance of fresh seafood all year round. But more than a shipping lane and pantry, the bay has a thriving ecosystem filled with a huge variety of fish, many mammals, boatloads of crustaceans, and an entire seabed of ocean plants. It appears that many of the bay's inhabitants were named after their general appearance or deportment, like the goose barnacle, high-flying rondelet's flying fish, the mysterious ghost prawn, and the crab-eater seal. We'll give you one guess what that little fella does. Port Phillip Bay is also home to many schools of dolphins, which you may get a chance to get up close and personal with, depending on the time of year. A number of charter boats offer swimming with dolphins as their main draw card, allowing you to frolic with these most amazing creatures. For more information, just inquire at the Melbourne Visitor Centre at Federation Square. As we travel along South Melbourne Beach, spare a thought for those troubled souls who spend their lives driving a bus past magnificent views like this. Just kidding. But seriously, on any given day, the beach here is quite stunning. You've probably already noticed the joggers and cyclists running along the shoreline, or perhaps just a few people walking their dogs. It really is an idyllic setting, one we never tire of. At our next stop, you can amble out over the water and take in the views as you walk along the historic Kirkford Road Pier. The timber pier was constructed in 1889, following a period of growth and affluence in the surrounding area. With a newly found interest in the health benefits of the sea, the entire area became quite the fashionable destination. The pier has survived for many years and offers an amazing vantage point from which to view the city. It's also a very popular setting for wedding photos or even proposing. Who's getting lucky today? We've now arrived at South Melbourne Beach. Hop off here to enjoy the sights that Kirkford Road Pier has to offer. Please collect your belongings before you depart and hold on to your...
Buồn trốn hay là dù Nếu mai Nó bắt thêm một ngày Okay.
On the 13th of May 1787, 11 ships carrying more than 1,420 people left Britain to found a penal colony in a far-off southern land. This colony would be the first European settlement in Australia. The voyage took between 250 to 252 days, during which time 28 children were born and 48 people lost their lives. Of those making the journey, nearly 800 were British convicts bound for the future penal colony in the new land. In those days, life at sea was not the leisure cruise it is now. Huge storms would toss ships about like leaves on the breeze. The heavily laden fleet found it difficult to manoeuvre. The seas were so rough at times that one sailor was blown overboard and drowned. The fleet, comprising 2 naval ships, 6 convict transport ships, and 3 food and supply ships, eventually found their destination in mid-January 1788. Imagine how you would feel after 6 months at sea. As we enter Port Melbourne, glance into the distance to those mighty ships laying at rest at the dock ahead. These floating cities make regular stops here at a dock known as Station Pier. There are also a number of restaurants and cafes dotted along the pier, making it an ideal place to stop for a meal or a cup of coffee. The original pier dates back to 1854 and was the main port of entry for those passengers travelling to Victoria to strike it rich. When larger steamships came into greater use, the pier was rebuilt as you see it today, and is currently the largest timber pile wharf in the country. Imagine watching these massive steamships lumber into port and engorge hundreds of people, most carrying little more than the shirt on their back. That's the power of the scent of gold. After a while, new migrants would begin arriving by plane, signalling the end of what some consider the romantic era of migration by sea. But the pier still finds enough use today to be a 24/7 concern. In addition to international cruise ships like the Queen Mary 2, other fast ship services operate commuter services for the general public. The Spirit of Tasmania is a fast ferry that makes regular trips south to the island state of Tasmania, or Tassie as we like to call it. The trip takes around 9 to 11 hours, with up to 2 departures per day. You can even take a car on board, enabling adventurous souls to take a self-guided driving tour of one of Australia's most beautiful states. One of Australia's most historic arrival points, Princess Pier. For a period of many decades, spanning the First and Second World Wars, the wooden decking of this pier would have been the first solid ground many new migrants would feel under their feet after being at sea for many months. For those passengers who were escaping the ravages of war, our shores must have brought a tear to many eyes. There's a reason why they call this the Lucky Country. Since then, a number of government projects have restored various parts of the pier, preserving the structure as a sort of monument to those who left their houses behind to find home in another land. Hop off at our next stop if you'd like to walk along the pier and experience a little history under your feet. One of the many hangovers from life as an English settlement is now an Australian tradition. We're talking about fish and chips. Considering we live right on the water's edge, we're in the perfect position to enjoy the best the ocean has to offer. Many of the waterfront areas and piers in this area are primed to take advantage of this fact, offering picture-perfect settings in which you can consume the freshest fish and the crispiest chips. Nothing is more Australian than spending the day at the beach, swimming or surfing to your heart's content, topped off with a visit to the fish and chip shop. It's also a popular rite of passage for many new couples to bring a takeaway parcel of battered and fried fish and chips to the beach to watch the sunset across the water. What could be more romantic than that? We've now arrived at Station Pier. You'll stop if you'd like to walk along Station Pier or grab some fish and chips and watch the sun go down. Please ensure you have all of your belongings before you hop off and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on again later. Have fun! Gaze to your right and across the water. From here, as the sun sets, the views of the entire bay are magnificent. The light dancing off the waves and the ships bobbing on the horizon. No wonder many people fall in love with Melbourne. It's hard 5% of the population living along the coast of the continent. Not too far away, on the edge of Melbourne, lie some of the lushest forests of the southern hemisphere. This mix of terrains is likely what inspired noted Australian poet Dorothea McKellar to write a love letter to Australia titled My Country. The most notable verse goes, "I love a sunburned country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizons, I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror, the wide brown land for me." To our right, you can see the Pioneer Memorial for the first settler in Port Melbourne. Wilbraham Evelyn Liardet arrived in Melbourne with his wife and 11 children in 1839 and established a range of small businesses, including a ferry service, mail run and a resort hotel. They also built roads, a jetty and a watchtower. We're now arriving at our Bay Street stop. Hop off here for all of the boutique shops and various food outlets that you could wish for in one place. Or take a walk along this beautiful street. Don't forget to collect your valuables and to keep your ticket in the same place. In the suburb of Port Melbourne. With Hobson's Bay on one side and the rest of the city on the other, it was natural that the area became the city's second port for shipping and transport. This meant that for some time, Port Melbourne had quite an industrial and commercial feel to it. You've likely noticed the wide streets and relaxed nature of the area. This is due to If you like festivals, you're really going to love Melbourne. The annual calendar of festival events is chock full of more than... wait a minute. See if you can guess how many festivals are held in Melbourne each year. Did you guess 25? How about 40? You're close. There are more than 50. Yes, 50 festivals each year. With a large portion of the city's population made up of migrant families, the wealth of Melbourne is vested in its diverse culture and the breadth of experience each and every person brings to their life here. Our festivals are a celebration of everything that makes Melbourne, Melbourne. At a glance, there's the Korean Festival, the Next Wave Youth Arts Festival, a Children's Book Festival, the annual Fashion Week, which attracts the elite fashionistas from across the globe. Over the last decade and change, Melbourne has swiftly become a mecca for coffee aficionados from around the world. We really are spoilt for specialty roast coffee and stimulating cafes in which to drink it. You'll also find a number of world champion baristas working in cafes here. Yes, you could go as far as to say we're coffee snobs. With a large influx of Italian migrants during the 20th century, with them came a lust for all things caffeinated and the apparatus needed to make a strong cup of coffee. Espresso machines started appearing in corner cafes with increasing regularity, and Melbourne swiftly became hooked. We really love our coffee. But don't worry, you can still get a normal flat white or latte just about anywhere. Some say our coffee is better than anything you'll find in Europe. We'll let you be the judge. We don't mean to boast, but many famous actresses in Hollywood have actually come from the dusty theatres and worn rehearsal rooms of Melbourne. We breed creativity. To pull a few names out of the air, people like Kate Blanchett, Isabel Lucas, Rachel Griffiths, Radha Mitchell, as well as Danny and Kylie Minogue. Yes, the last two are better known as singers, but they've had their fair share of cinematic experience as well. Many started in local theatre groups, either in youth or as adults, and practiced their craft with dedication and diligence, developing the skills that would take them from notable performances in Australian art house films to engendered in his gang, buoyed their spirits to enact yet more daring crimes. Viewed as an Australian Robin Hood, Kelly's notoriety grew dramatically, as too did the price on his head. The police even employed local native trackers in the search to hunt down the man and his gang. The Kelly gang eventually met their end after taking over a small township, holding the inhabitants as captive at a local inn. A police siege then began, with gunfire being briefly exchanged, after which the siege lasted all night. Before daybreak, with reinforcements arriving, the police realised Kelly had escaped in the night and had proceeded around behind them, where he now opened fire. A gun battle ensued, and Kelly was ultimately wounded and captured. At trial, he was sentenced to hang by the neck until dead, which took place at Old Melbourne Jail on the 11th of November 1880. There have been many books and works of art devoted to Kelly. One famous Australian painter, Sidney Nolan, produced a series of paintings which tell the story of Kelly and his gang. The paintings now sit on permanent display in the National Gallery of Australia, located in Canberra, and to experience Melbourne in a very unique way, the Colonial Tramcar restaurant is just the ticket. The tram stop you see to the right is where you catch the tram, with each car painted in heritage colours with gold trim. They really do look glorious. Offering lunch, early dinner and late dinner, the Colonial Tramcar is a very distinctive sight on our streets. People tend to stop and watch as the tramcar casino and entertainment complex. Please ensure you collect your belongings before you hop off, and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on it. We're now travelling through South Bank, one of Melbourne's most exciting and salubrious suburbs. Situated on the banks of the Yarra River, South Bank stretches from the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre, past Crown Casino, and right up to the Arts Centre Melbourne. Because of this positioning, you're guaranteed some of the best views that Melbourne has to offer. It's the ideal place to spend a lazy day shopping up at the city centre. Like many great cities of the world, Melbourne would be nothing without its art. While we have many stunning galleries and public exhibition spaces, you can find a lot of our favourite art pieces for free in the great outdoors. If you get the time, a stroll along the banks of the Yarra River will yield a veritable feast of Australian artworks, including Indigenous works of sculpture and painting. Many called the City Lights project is located in Hosier Lane, just opposite Federation Square. It's a regular rotating exhibition featuring work from up-and-coming local artists, installed in dedicated light boxes that run the length of the lane. Stop by the Melbourne Visitor Centre at Federation Square to find out more. Seeing Melbourne from your seat on the City Sightseeing Bus is a great way to get to know the city we call home. But there are many unique experiences you can enjoy which will literally give you an alternate view of this amazing city. The uniquely designed building up ahead and to your right is the Melbourne Recital Centre and MTC Theatre Complex. This eye-catching building is the beating heart of Melbourne's live music performance scene, offering a variety of world-class music, from jazz to classical and everything in between. It's a truly inspiring place. Just next to the Recital Centre, the Melbourne Theatre Company produces a regular season of classic and contemporary works, curated to both excite and provoke the senses. Many famous actors have trod the boards here, such as Jeffrey Rush, Kate Blanchett and Kevin Spacey, to name but a few. Works in static collections on display all year round, as well as a regular program of special collections from around the world. Many world-class exhibitions have passed through here, from Guggenheim favourites to European masters, and contemporary works which have defined the years we live in. But don't get too close to the artworks. After Picasso's painting Weeping Women was stolen in 1986, security can get a little anxious. Oh, and don't worry, it was returned a week later. We've now arrived at our NGV and Arts Centre Melbourne stop. Present your city sightseeing ticket at the box office to receive a 10% discount off a guided tour and exclusive access to discounted show tickets, merchandise, food and beverage offers. Tours depart daily at 11 a.m. Please ensure you collect your belongings before you hop off and hold on to your ticket so you can hop on again later. On your left is one of Melbourne's most iconic landmarks, the Arts Centre, also known as the Building with the Spire. You'll find it on postcards, fridge magnets, company logos, umbrellas, jumpers, tea towels, you get the idea. The spire has a distinctive design that brings the Eiffel Tower or a ballerina's tutu to mind. New Year's Eve 2012, in a show that the Arts Centre didn't intend on staging, the spire caught fire after fireworks misfired. Fire crews couldn't access the area because of the massive crowd of revellers, who simply took out their phones to snap photos of our city's most recognisable building burning away. Luckily, the fire burned out after about 40 minutes and caused only minor damage. The spire's lights continued to shine throughout the night, and it was soon. Coming up on your left is Discrete Station, Australia's first city train station. It began life in 1854 as a humble collection of weatherboard structures. As Melbourne grew, platforms were added, and the station soon found itself the hub of the city's public transport. It now services more than 110,000 commuters per day. The steps outside the station are a favourite meeting place for many Melburnians, with small congregations of friends gathering under the clocks that line the arch at the building's front facade. There's a rumour that the plans for Flinders Street Station were actually mixed up in the designer's office in London, with the builders watching. If you have the time, the cathedral has regular music recitals played on the stunning pipe organ inside. For a gold coin donation, you can sit and enjoy organ music we don't often get to hear, in the very setting it was intended for. About to pass Hosier Lane, where the City Lights project we mentioned earlier is located. Take note if you'd like to get off at our next stop and check it out. You may not know it, but some of Melbourne's best kept secrets can be found down our many laneways and side streets. Want one of the world's top cocktail bars? We've got heaps. Feel like amazing Chinese food in an award-winning restaurant? You'll have to wait 3 months for a table, but we've got that as well. Or maybe you're simply after a basement bookstore, but only if you can find them. Believe it or not, that the ground beneath our feet is filled with a cobweb of tunnels, some dating back to World War II. There is believed to be roughly 50 tunnels that crisscross the city, allowing one to walk from the Shrine of Remembrance all the way to the State Library of Victoria without ever seeing the light of day. Conveniently, there's one rumour to travel between St Paul's Cathedral and the hotel on the opposite side of the road. We assume this is for when drinkers need to get to church as swiftly as possible. But the largest tunnel is the one you can pass through right now, the City Loop train tunnel. Just jump on any train heading into the loop and enjoy 12 kilometres of this great engineering feat. We've now arrived at Federation Square, our final stop on the tour. We do sincerely hope you've enjoyed this city sightseeing tour of St Kilda. Don't forget, we have another hop-on, hop-off tour that takes you through Melbourne City, including the Melbourne Zoo. Melbourne, the abundance of shopping destinations that Melbourne has to offer, the Melbourne City Tour gives you a great rundown on the thousands of retail stores, designer fashion boutiques, and shopping strips available right in the heart of the city. You can now hop off here to access Fed Square, the Melbourne Visitor Centre, Discrete Station just to the west, and the many trams that run along Swanston Street. As one of the most compact regions in Australia, Victoria offers a